All right, looks like we are live. Good to see everybody. Just going to have a quick little hangout, talk about pretty much whatever we want. What's going on, Riot? Just enjoying my coffee. What's going on, Mark? So, how's everybody doing? Today is Monday, April 7th. Man, time is just flying by. Julianne, how are you? Good to see you. Ziggy. Want to know what's up with Asia Degree? Yep, that's what I was working on this morning. Here, let me show you this map I put together. I feel like they're right on the cusp. Like I can feel it, you know what I mean? So it just has pretty much the whole timeline kind of laid out. 3400 Oak Crest Drive. So I'm going to have this kind of everything kind of mapped out and pinpointed. So you have her home. This little stretch of area is kind of where she was seen walking up and down the street. They found some of her items. The search warrants last year took place right over here. I think it's 601 Cherry Hill. Don't quote me on that. Then way up here, 5526 North Carolina, right off of the 18. This is where they found her book bag. Right near Laurel Haven Baptist Church. So there's actually a dirt road that kind of goes up here. Actually, I think I still have it right here. Yeah, I was literally just working on this morning. So this is a snipping tool from Street View off of Google from right there. So whoever kidnapped Asia dumped her items up this road here. I might even have it marked here on the. Yeah, here we go. Let's pull this up. This might help. Hey, thanks, Riot. I appreciate that. So let's pull up the street view. Just kind of plop this little orange guy down. Kind of feel bad if I leave him hanging too long. See, he's like, just put me down already. There you go, buddy. And here's the road. Actually, I think I'm turned around. The road might be over here. Oh, there it is. Dropped him too far. Sorry, little orange guy. So right up that way. What's going on, CJK? How's your Monday going, Julianne? Miss Dog Lover? Says, honestly, some of the stuff I'm seeing on social media, the world has gone mad. I worry for the next generation. Hey, one thing you need to realize is that it's all by design. It's all by design. Like the youth is literally being corrupted. All of those live streams I did on like dark web activities and things like that, CSAM, sextortion, all of that is really going on right here on the regular internet. You know, none of that's really going on the dark web. And these people are getting organized to corrupt children. Like it's literally what they're trying to do. It's almost like they've been programmed by the devil to corrupt people. And it's not going to happen overnight. So when you guys hear me talk about ideological subversion, that's what I'm talking about. It takes a whole generation. Once you corrupt that generation, once they grow up to be adults, then they begin voting those ideas in. They begin pushing that narrative onto people. And then each generation is going to be worse and worse and worse. And that's what we're seeing right now with politics and true crime, everything really. It's starting to seep. So that's where they found her backpack. Let me zoom out so you guys kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. Just south of Morgantown. And then recently in the news is Northbrook School number 1. Why they're searching here, I have no clue. I mean, this place is creepy as shit. So I don't know what the connection between this place, Asia, and the suspects. But it is on this kind of pathway. I'm not sure where that came from. What the fuck? Google Maps is kind of weird sometimes. Oh, well. Well, I guess it's kind of out of the way, really. You know, suspect's home is down here. If it was going to be a straight shot, he would have continued through Bellwood. So what that means to me is if Asia was killed here or her body was placed here, it was personal to this person, right? If it's the suspect. He takes a sharp right and goes directly to the school. And then from the school makes a conscious decision to leave these items. Unless he came to this location first and backtracked. I'm not quite sure. Not sure how it ties in. Good to see you, Miss Dog Lover. Who'd I miss? Grunge Truck. What's up? When you say high, how high are we talking about? Like head for the hills high, or holy shit, this isn't normal? Hey, what's up, Charles? Some think it was a car accident covered up. Could be. Could be. Right? Young girl leaving a party late at night around 4 a.m. Hits Asia Degree, who should not be there, right? There shouldn't be a little kid right here in the road. Or even near the road if I happen to kind of veer off. hits the child. Hey, we hit something, stops. Oh my God, it's Asia. What do I do? What do I do? I've been drinking. Kind of the whole Karen Reed argument. Because a simple accident turns into a criminal act if you're under the influence. Um, don't go boneless. Welcome in. That's it, Charles, and that's what I was going to get at. The little kid getting out, the weird picture, the photograph. Here, let me pull up some of this information. So I feel like she may have been being catfished by the young girls. They may have been wanting to lure her out to harm her. We might be dealing with a Slender Man type scenario. 16-year-old girls lure out a young black kid with intentions of hurting her. Remember, they found a strange photograph. She went to church that morning. She was at some kind of an event. So I think back then you could still catfish people. You just didn't do it on the internet, right? Maybe somebody walked up to you and said, hey, somebody told me to give you this. And it's just a letter inside, you open it up and there's a picture of some girl and it says, hey, my name's this and that. I'm a 9-year-old girl, or I'm a 13-year-old kid, or, and then just begin the catfishing that way through correspondence. I think the book that was in her backpack, it was about some kids that run away from home together, right? And I could be wrong about that. Let's find out. Okay, here's the photograph that they found up the street from Asia's home. I'm lost. I think I need to go this way. Got my map all screwed up. Okay, so Asia lived around here, 3400 Oak Crest Drive. Can't drop our little guy over here. We'll drop him right here. So Asia waits for her father to fall asleep, and then she sneaks out of her home, heading in this direction. So she would have passed the Moles Memorial Baptist Church, Wallace Grove Drive. And at some point, she hits Debbie Turner Upholstery because some of her items are found back here in this shed. It was like some markers, some pencils, some candy wrappers, and that strange photograph, kind of all together in the same area. And I think the candies were even something that was given out to them at the sporting event earlier. And then at some point she's seen or witnessed around here, and she runs away from the guy who he actually stopped and tried to confront her, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said she took off, I believe, into these woods, or maybe even into these woods, but I think it's over here. And then you have another witness that says somebody was forcing her into a vehicle, I think somewhere like down in this area. Hey, Anna. She was 9 years old and left her home early in the morning on February 14th, 2000. Her leaving the home may not be connected with her disappearance. Her book bag was found 30 miles away. Yeah, we just showed that area. We showed the location where her book bag was found. What I want to look at right now is the actual book itself. McElliot's Pool. So they found this in her bag. Let me see what this book is. McElligot's. Let's see. Imaginative Marco fishes patiently in McElligot's pool, a cow pond with with a lot of potential. The boy believes an underground brook connects McElligot's pool with the sea. Via this route, he explains to a skeptical farmer, countless fantastic finny creatures are sure to find their way to Marco's hook. No, I don't see anything about running away. About some kid daydreaming about this pond being connected to the ocean, and there's got to be some kind of giant sea creature in there. He's going to catch it. Sounds pretty good. What else? This was also found in her backpack. It did not belong to her. And recent text messages between some of the suspect's daughters, they were actually talking about this. Like, oh, do they believe it's mine? Is it mine? Like, they were actually talking about the New Kids on the Block pajamas. What is that, a nightie? Yeah, it's almost like she was on a mission, huh, Charles? Like, I got things I got to do. This guy's not going to stop me. If I go talk to this guy, he's going to get me in trouble and he's going to make me go home. You know, it's obvious I'm not supposed to be out here, but there's somewhere that I'm going. I feel like she was motivated. And I don't think there was anything going on at home. Like there didn't seem to be any abuse. Everything seemed good there. The family has been fighting this entire time. I don't feel like she was running from anything. It was more as if she was being possibly motivated by an outside force. I'm thinking maybe these young kids were catfishing her. Dropping off letters to her and making her think that maybe she had a friend. And some adventure was awaiting. There was a power outage which could have been disorienting, causing low visibility even. When the power goes out, the streetlights go out. So this is the upholstery shop, and this is the owner, I believe. She's kind of pointing out the location where she found the items. So sitting right here would have been some candy wrappers. That strange photograph of a young girl that looks similar to Asia. It's not Asia, just somebody that looks like her. And I think just some school supplies like markers and some pencils and things like that. Anna says 9 years old. She left her home around 3 a.m. on Valentine's Day. There's that date again. It seems like there's a lot of these strange crimes going on around Valentine's Day. I wonder if these creeps get lonely. It makes them start acting weird. I think they found a tennis shoe, a book, and the nightie, I think, was all they found. That I don't know. I don't know if they went to the same school. I don't know if they were on the opposing team, but I know shortly before she went missing, she attended a basketball game. Weird thing is, she packed a couple changes of clothes into her school backpack, plus her basketball uniform. Yeah, a lot of people were suspecting the coach too. There was a coach that she was really close with, and he's been a suspect, you know, person of interest, but nothing ever tied him to it. But he would have been in a good position to kind of groom or lure. See, these weren't school items, I think. Yeah, these items here weren't school items, but some of them were like, I mean, you could say they were or they weren't. I think it was like colored pencils, some Crayola markers, maybe a few pens, something like you would have in your backpack. I always thought maybe somebody found her and was kind of rummaging through her bag. Like, what do you got in here? Like, this was the meetup location, you know? And then from here, they went somewhere else and something bad happened. So I don't know. I think we could be dealing with like a mean teen situation. Anna says in a recent interview, Asia's brother has said she had a headache earlier, the evening of the 13th. I wonder if her thinking was skewed by maybe feeling unwell, power outage. Hmm. I don't know. Maybe somebody was drugging her. You guys remember that story? I think it's about a year old now. This girl, she had a sleepover. She invited like a whole bunch of her friends over. It was like four of her best friends, and they all went down to the basement and they were all sleeping. Well, before bedtime, her father made them all like milkshakes or smoothies or something, and he drugged them. He drugged them all and then went down and like I think he didn't successfully molest them. He was attempting. He was like going down there and like creeping in the night, pulling off the blankets and stuff like that. And one of the girls acted like she was asleep, but really was texting her mother. And she called the police. They showed up and he got busted. But they all reported having headaches and things. You know, they were asking them what the side effects were and things like that. They all had horrible headaches. So who knows? What's going on, brown eyed girl? Oh, this case is about to be over. They're about to find out exactly what happened, and I think there's going to be some arrests made, or at least some official rulings. Suspects may even be dead by now. I know some of the people that were named in the recent affidavit for the search warrant, they're no longer living. Charles says one girl called her mom before being knocked out. Yeah, it was fucking weird. And all I can remember telling myself was, and that's why I don't let my kids stay the night over. They can be mad at me all they want. On who? CJK? On Asia? Yeah, they served a search warrant. Here, I'll pull it back up for you. So right here, the 5526 North Carolina 18. This is where they found Asia's book bag. Right in this area here. And then last year, with the breaking news, they served a search warrant down over here at 601 Cherry Hill Road. I think that's somewhere right here. Now, just a few days ago, they served another search warrant at what is called the Northbrook School Number 1. So I don't know how it's all tied in. Here's some photographs I gathered. Seems to be some old abandoned school. What's going on? Misty Free Spirit, Sensei, Wackadoodle. What is up? My only question is what led them here? Like what angle are they working? Like are we close? And I'm not sure when this place closed down. You know, if she went missing in 2000, was this place operational or no? I have that information somewhere. I just can't remember off the top. Like they're out here searching, even out here in the woods surrounding that area. There's their base camp. I don't know what this is. Looks like a fire station, maybe. Oh yeah, this is a serious. I mean, they're really looking for something. That looks like might be the forensic team over here. Yeah, that's true, Charles. And it had a huge dent in the front too. I think that feeds a lot of feeds into the theory that maybe she was hit. And after that, they just parked the car and never drove it again. Hoping nobody would notice. Like a secret, like a skeleton in the closet. They just kept it hidden. Yeah, the Deadmans. I think so, Charles. I think the texts are the key. The girls kind of panicked. Once the search warrant was put into effect, they began to panic, not realizing that the search warrant actually included their cell phone information as well, like the following day or two. So while they were searching the property, the girls were panicking, communicating about what they might be looking for and how they might be implicated, not knowing that, a few days later, these very text messages would be in the hands of the FBI. Poetically, that is. Her parents' anniversary was the 14th. That's interesting. Anniversary and Valentine's Day. We're not covering any cases since they were just talking. Riot brought up Asia Degrees case, so I just pulled up the information that I had on it. We're just hanging out, talking about anything, everything, whatever, nothing. We're just live. The Sleuth Intuition channel we're just live. That's it. What are you guys looking for out here? Possible dump site, maybe? Yeah. So that's good news going on with Asia Degree. I feel it in my bones. They're gonna find out what happened. Hopefully they find her. That's not always the case, but I hope that they do. What else was I looking at the other day? So this has to do with the Delphi case. It could be nothing. Probably is nothing. But I don't know if you guys have been thinking about it or not. Like, why is the ground disturbed going down the hill? My first thought was, well, that's a game trail. Obviously it's going to be disturbed. I'm sure the deer went through there early that morning, got a drink of water, and then went and found a place to just kind of lay low. So I didn't even think about it. I said it could have been that. There's no way to prove it. And then I was like, wait a minute. For fun, I would go camping and I would track deer. I would track where they're laying. Like a hunter, I would hunt them without shooting them. I would just be out hiking and I'd find a trail, whether it was wolves, coyotes, maybe a fox. But it was real easy to find the deer and the elk because they're very heavy and they leave a nice visible print. Very sharp, those hooves. So I said it might be easy. If it was deer, it'd be easy to tell. But that's not what I found. I found what appears to be boot prints or shoe prints, right? I'm not really seeing any hooves. They're very distinct. Hey, thank you, Miss Dog Lover. Super chat. How's the wife doing? Baby Sleuth must be due soon. Not due in September, but man, time is flying by. Next week, we're going to find out the gender. Like, we literally had a panic moment the other day. Like, oh my God. Because you have all this time. You're like, oh, you have all this time to take care of all these things. And then, you go to sleep, you wake up, and 5 months are gone. You're like, holy shit. A little bit of panic. Okay, so my question is, if this was not deer, who disturbed this area here? Was it Libby? Did she cross the bridge and kind of go down there and just kind of investigate while Abby was doing her best? Was it her friends from earlier? Or was it the bridge guy? Was it Richard Allen back here? This whole area is disturbed right here. Or is it possibly another suspect? So we have the ground disturbed before what appears to be even Abby and Libby going down the hill or anybody going down the hill. So if this is not deer or animals making these marks or disturbing the ground, I mean, who was this? This means that somebody was there on that side down the hill before they even got there. Unless I'm just mistaken about what I'm looking at here. This is downhill, and it appears that the ground is disturbed. Does that mean that Richard Allen was down here already? Was he under the bridge when the girls were crossing and he said, oh shit, there's two girls crossing? Or is it just Libby? She kind of goes halfway down and is like, okay, this is the way we got to go. Comes back up and then begins filming. And, and that's why she's explaining to Abby, like, hey, this is the way we got to go down this way. Like, I've already been up here. I already, I've looked around. This is the way we got to go. So I think it's possible that it might be her, right? Where there's deer, there's droppings. Could do with seeing if there's video from before the crime in that area to compare. I mean, you think you would see the prints here, even just one. But instead, you have what kind of looks like a boot. See this? See, here's a good one. Looks like the front of a shoe. And then you can see when it kicks off the ground how it kind of disturbed this back area right here. And you can kind of see how where the ground is disturbed, it's basically the distance between your feet if you were walking. But I don't know if that matters. I don't know if it means anything. I guess it could easily have been Libby, right? She kind of walks right down here, turns back around, turns on her phone. Like, hey, this is where we need to go. Like I've already kind of scoped it out. Looks like this is the trail that leads down here. So if we're trying to get down there to that private drive, I think we need to go down this way because there's no trail over there. And then we'll just hope that this creepy guy on the bridge is just kind of, just having fun and wanting to cross the bridge himself. And he won't bother himself with us. Oh, went too far. Say like right here. And then right here kind of looks like deer tracks, right? Like a bunch of little. But I can't tell if that's indentions or mud clods kind of sticking up. What's up, rescue? So I don't know what to make of all of that. Maybe it's just nothing. Big nothing burger. Yeah, I'm assuming he was down at the crime scene too, many times. I'm sure he's been down the hill over there by that creek near the sandbar. He knew it was shallow right there. And think about it. If you're seen crossing the bridge with two girls, why would anybody in their wildest dreams assume that you are across that creek? That's probably why he did it. Like everybody's going to think I went over there when really I'm just like right here. Nobody would even assume that, would even think that. Even from the beginning, everybody said, why would he do that? Why would he kill across that creek? That's why it's so hard now for people to accept that. They can't wrap their head around it. But the very reason that it's hard for us to wrap our head around is probably why he chose to do it. It's good to see you, rescue. What else was I looking at? Oh, yeah, here we go. I'm all over the place. What's up, Dark Side? Yeah, I've always wondered if he still would have did if the girls would have just turned around and didn't cross, I don't know. I have a feeling that no matter where they were, anywhere near that bridge, I think it was secluded enough and there was access points. I don't know. For all we know, maybe the girls crossed the bridge, maybe they were already fleeing him. Maybe he just was sitting there like, hey, you got to come back this way at some point, or I'll just cross the bridge. But in their mind, like, well, we can't go this way because he's right there waiting for us. I know what. We'll cross the bridge. We'll go down the private drive and we'll go over there by your house, Abby. And then we won't have to worry about this creepy guy that appears to be waiting for us. I don't know. He may have been bent set on getting them down there to where they were eventually found. Maybe that was part of his plan. And you can get there even easier on the north side of that bridge. So if you decide not to cross the bridge to the south side over there by the Weber property, and you decide to just kind of veer off left following the creek, it'll take you. There's a clear path back there, and it'll take you to the crime scene. That could have been his intention. Like, I'll meet them at the trails, and then I'm just going to take them back here. Either way, I have to get them to that crime scene, which is just below the cemetery where I believe, obviously there's no proof of this at this time, but I believe that there were other killers there, possibly even waiting down there, waiting below the cemetery where the girls were found. That's why it was important for him to get there. But the girls, I think, were, throwing a monkey wrench in their plans. Like, hey, if we cross the bridge, we'll just escape on the other side down the private drive. Like, he won't catch us. But I think that, Abby, Libby, it was a great plan for her, right? If this happened. I don't know if this happened. Hypothetically. So Libby's like, this is a great plan. It's going to work out perfect for her because she can fly across the bridge, right? It's not her first time. But Abby's like, I don't know if I can do that. I can try. It's my only option. But by the time they get over there, it's already too late. He's already caught up to them and has the gun pulled. And now he has to cross the creek. So it's possible that Abby and Libby forced him to make forced him to cross the creek, and he may not have wanted to. He could have had a group of men on that side saying, well, we got to bring him across. Hey, what's going on, She Warrior? Hope you're having a good day at work. CJK says, Sleuth, if you ever make it to Delphi and see that area, it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts after you see it all. Thing is, I'm an avid outdoorsman. I know you have to be in a location to understand it fully. But I've been in all kinds of terrain, I think I have a good idea what's going on there. But yeah, obviously you would have to visit there too to know 100%. But I've been hunting, hiking, and camping my entire life. I think I know what's going on there. And I find it hilarious when people say, oh, it's treacherous. But then again, like I said, I've been hunting, camping, and doing all these things my entire life. So for me, that's not treacherous. Like scaling a side of a cliff or a cliff face, to me, that's treacherous. Like, I know better than to just go walking willy-nilly through the dark out in the woods. Every step should be a careful one, with or without light. I could crab walk down that shit. I can do cartwheels down that. Do cartwheels across that bridge. I can literally levitate. Oh yeah, me too. Brown-eyed girl. Me being from there, it was our hangout that our parents didn't know about, where we could smoke and drink, and parents didn't know about the place. Yeah, exactly. Like when I was a kid, we had places that were right there, but out of reach, right? So your parents might have been, let's say, on the other side of the bridge, and we would have crossed the bridge and just been right there. That way, if somebody yelled like, Patrick, or hey, kids, we can hear them, but they had no clue what we were doing. So if we were smoking cigarettes or we were doing graffiti under the bridge or, just talking shit, they would have no clue. But if they called for us, we'd be like, yeah, we're over here. But yet we still had our privacy. The bridge kind of reminds me of a place like that, close but far away. Mark says, I've always wondered what Richard Allen did after he got home that day. Well, according to Kathy, when she got home she gets off work at 5:30, so she would have been home shortly after that. And if you go look at the veterinary clinic there just outside of Delphi, those are the hours. I think it was like 9 to 5:30. So my question is, why isn't Richard Allen at home in bed? Or why is he in Peru? So that means that his wife, Kathy, woke up and got ready for work in an empty house. Or when she got up, Richard Allen went to Peru for nothing. Why would he wake up, go to Peru, talk to his mother and sister, and then not join them for lunch? That doesn't make any sense. I think that he was already in Peru. I think he was already with the Kleins, communicating with Libby through Snapchat, and nobody's ever going to find out about it because nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Hey, bootleg, how you doing? Oh, you got a day filled with meetings, huh? Typical Monday, it sounds like. Well, hang in there. Make sure you get your coffee. Yeah, brown-eyed girl, that sucks. Because it's a beautiful place. But unfortunately, when something tragic like that happens, you have this weird, like, residual energy that just kind of fills up the space, you know? And with Abby and Libby, they had like this weird power. You know what I mean? Like they were able to just like swirl that energy around everywhere. It just kind of like entangled everybody. But I feel like they're still calling out. Like we're not done yet. Yeah, it's not. It's kind of a symbol of something else. It's kind of like it's like a symbol of a horror movie that wasn't a movie. You know how there's always like an image that reminds you of something really scary. It's kind of what I think of now when I see images of the High Bridge. Like it's been perverted. Most times. Mark says, did law enforcement find we'll hold off before we get into the Gilgo Beach stuff. Looks like you guys are still talking about the Delphi case. Did law enforcement find anything on the mini phones Richard Allen had? No. Only thing of interest, and it really wasn't even interesting at all, was some of his Google searches. He was looking for movies that involve kidnapping and things like that. I'm not big into horror movies, but I love thrillers and stuff. Movies like Silence of the Lambs. So if you were to look up my search history, you'd be like, ugh. Like if all of a sudden they're like Patrick Vallejos has been accused of a crime, and we did a search warrant on his home computer, and all he looked up was like murder and this and this and that. It's going to look horrible. But for me, I've never once looked up a movie that involved specifically kidnapping or like a violent kidnapping. But then again, he could have just been looking up a specific movie, and that's the part that he remembered. But then again, that still is telling us something about Richard Allen. Like that's the part of the movie that he remembered. He wants to watch this movie because of the kidnapping part in the movie, right? He's not just like, oh, what was that movie? Oh, movie with violent kidnapping. No, that's the part that he remembered, and that's the reason he wanted to watch the movie, is because it had scenes of violence and kidnapping and things like that, which would fit with um, Abby and Libby's killer, right? This kidnapper who perpetrated violence upon them. So that was really the only thing interesting. But then again, they didn't find his phone. They didn't find the phone from 2017. And then again, they didn't find any evidence that his phone was even with him. Nobody talks about that part. They didn't find any evidence of his cell phone being at the trails. But everybody, including himself, said that he was on a phone. So if he's on a phone and it's not his phone, what kind of phone? It's obviously a burner phone, right? But we just won't talk about that stuff. We'll just let sleeping dogs lie. How about that? I think he did search. Actually, no, they found that he was searching the Delphi case too, on and off, from like 2022, from like 2020 to 2024, or something like that. He was Google searching Delphi updates. But being from there, I don't think that that's strange. But I think it is a little bit strange that he was there. He's obviously interested in the Delphi murders, and we've never known. The public never really knew that Richard Allen was there that day. We knew about everybody. We knew about Daniel Pearson. We knew about the Subaru crew. We knew about the multiple men that never went public. I think his name was only mentioned one time by a YouTuber. I mean, we knew everybody. The only person we didn't know about was Richard Allen, and that turned out to be the killer. So I find that interesting. The Terrifier. Yeah, that's funny. I don't know. Those movies look they look pretty good, but I don't know. I'm not into those kind of movies. Yeah, he was looking up Bible verses. Hey, Red Queen. No worries. I just jumped on. It's kind of impromptu. We'll most likely be rescheduling the members meeting as well, but we will be having one today. What's going on, Barb? Charles Terrifier. That fucking clown. Supernatural clown. Probably She Warrior. He was definitely on a burner phone. You know, there's just so much to this case that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to meet me in the middle. It's either it's Richard Allen, shut up, or it's Odinism or Freemasons or the Patties are in on it. You know, I'm just like all alone out here, I feel. That I don't know, Charles. If Kagan Klein is involved, the phone that Richard Allen had on him during the murders probably made its way to Las Vegas and into the hands of a buyer, right? And then the fact that the case became so high profile, it's probably worth more now. But the person who purchased it or who has that phone, I don't think that they will ever share it, release it, or whatever. I think it's highly coveted to them. And it may not be the only one. And that's the reason that I don't stop digging into Abby and Libby's cases. There's something more to this. You know, it's not just little old Ricky. Um, could it be? Yeah, obviously it could be, but that's just not the way I see it. And the evidence, and I'm following the evidence. You know, I'm not just like, oh, my gut, my intuition tells me. Like, no, there's plenty of evidence to support the direction that my mind is going. I think they are. I think they know they're connected. I think that they had a relationship a long time ago. They reconnected recently before the murders. They may have done something very awful um, a while ago, so that's why they were comfortable with each other. They were confident, like, "Hey, I know you're just as sick as I am. I know it for a fact." So therefore, there wasn't really any kind of a hesitation to expose Richard Allen to what Keegan Klein and what potentially TK were doing. He just jumped right in. And he may have even taken it too far, you know? He may have been using information that he gleaned from the Anthony Shots account and began dating one of the girls in real life. Like using that information to bump into them or, you know, like make it seem like an accident and then slowly just start grooming them. So while you're using information about what they're into, their likes, their dislikes, through this catfish account, you know, you're taking that information into real world scenarios, meeting up with them, using that information to possibly kind of show them that you have the same interest, you guys have things in common. Um, and before you know it, they're linked up. You know, they have some kind of strange relationship going on behind the scenes where there's only communication with the burner phone. And I feel like there's a big piece of this that we don't know. And I feel like nobody really cares to figure it out. Not that I know of, Barb, but I think that they've gone through great lengths to do that. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just too easy to get away with murder. If you take a few steps, just have somebody using your cell phone, and then whoever you're committing a crime with, don't have any direct connections with them in case they get caught. And then be equally involved in the murder. So if they point you out, they're just pointing themselves out. I mean, think about it. If Richard Allen didn't leave that unspent bullet there, they would have nothing. Everybody would have known it was the Kleins that were involved. But now that Richard Allen's arrested, it's like, oh, it was Richard Allen, not the Kleins. I feel like Abby and Libby could have been one of many. The reason that we go over all these different groups online who target young children is because they're huge groups. We're talking one group was like over 60,000 members. It involved political terrorism, school shooters, children that cut themselves, sextortion, convincing people to commit off themselves live on camera. I mean, these are people that are just trying to corrupt the world, you know. And I believe that Abby and Libby could have just been part of that, or something similar. And if we just kind of bury it, like, oh, it's all over with, we'll never figure that out, and it'll just continue to happen. What's up, Tony? It's good to see you. Stephanie, it's good to see you. Mark says, remember when the girls had a sleepover and there was a man on the window spying on them the night before the murders? No, that's not exactly how it happened, Mark. During an interview with Kagan Klein, law enforcement stated, hey, the only way that we found you was because one of Libby's friends reported that she was going to meet Anthony Schatz, and somebody showed up instead wearing a ski mask looking through the window. Well, we did verify recently that that incident is in fact real. We still don't know where it happened and who the friend is that it happened to. But during the interview, they said, hey, Kagan, this is how it all started last time. This is how everything started with Anthony Schatz when it all started, right? So when that happened, law enforcement was called and said, hey, there's a guy with a ski mask. And then when they showed up to investigate, they said, well, I was talking to this guy online. His name's Anthony Schatz. And I gave him my address. And I told him, hey, we'll meet up after school. Well, instead of this handsome guy showing up, young, successful guy, there's somebody in a ski mask looking through the window. And this was just a few days after the murders of Abby and Libby. So law enforcement apparently showed up to this incident, and she said, well, I'm talking to this guy, Anthony Schatz. And they said, Anthony Schatz? That's one of the names that's tied to Abby and Libby's murder. So they were basically telling Keegan that's how they found out about the Anthony Schatz account. So just a few days after the murders, they have this incident. So it's almost as if the killer of Abby and Libby was going to get rid of these loose ends. I mean, think about it. Kagan Klein met Libby through a young girl that he was already catfishing. And one of the girls that he was catfishing, also that was Libby's friends, when he came back from Las Vegas a year and a half later, he began dating. So the girl that he was dating, he was catfishing before that, and is friends with Libby. So when he returns from Las Vegas, he begins dating this woman. So when they finally arrest him and serve a search warrant, he's literally living in her apartment. His girlfriend is Libby's friend. Like, I mean, how many more connections do you need to all of this? He literally came back and dated her friend. So if the killer is trying to tie up some loose ends, the only loose end there would have been anybody that knew Kagan Klein was introduced to Libby through a friend there, right? That's the only one tying Kagan to Libby. So if you kill her, there's nobody to say, hey, Kagan Klein is the Anthony Schatz guy. I'm not saying the cops wouldn't have figured it out or law enforcement would have figured it out, but through the eyes of the killer, that's what he's thinking. If I get rid of her, there's nobody to mention Anthony Schatz. So if I tie up this one loose end, nobody will ever connect me, Keegan Klein, or me, Richard Allen, to Keegan Klein, because Keegan Klein was too stupid and never told me that that's how he met Libby, right? Imagine being a killer. You just commit this murder, this horrendous crime, and you're sitting there with all your co-conspirators, and you're like, well, how, what mistakes did we make? Like, how did you know, you were the one targeting her, Kagan. How did you lock in on her? Oh, well, I was catfishing, a family friend. and she was over at a sleepover. So you're literally connected to her through a family friend? Yeah. Okay, well, that's a loose end. Maybe the killer might panic, like a Richard Allen, saying, well, I got to go kill this girl. This fucking idiot never told me that he actually knew Libby and Libby's friends. So now I have a loose end. So that might have prompted somebody like a Richard Allen or somebody who was afraid of law enforcement making that connection, go and commit that act, right? Get that address through the Anthony Shots account and show up and try to attempt to either intimidate her or literally physically kill them. I mean, law enforcement, they can lie, but that's what they told Caden Klein. They say that's how it all started. That's how we found your name, was because of that incident. But then you had a whole group of people trying to discredit that, acting like they debunked it. It was really weird. I was like, that's not how it works, guys. You have to know the county, the state, the people that it happened to. And then you have to make sure that it's not listed as confidential. So one of the biggest parts of this whole case, people just tried to debunk it as if it was nothing. And even when they were unsuccessful at debunking it, they just went around saying it's been debunked. So social media could be good at some point, at some times, and then sometimes it could be really harmful to what you're trying to get done. Trusting incompetent people who don't do the due diligence. The Peeping Tom story, I've heard different things, but I don't know if anything heard was factual. Well, the most recent thing released about the investigation, that the incident was real, that it actually did happen. Yep, could have been Alan in a ski mask or one of the killers. Somebody that knew that Keegan Klein actually had a connection to Libby, and they went to go erase that connection, right? If we get rid of this connection, she won't tell them, like, hey, I knew who Keegan Klein was, and I also knew that Keegan Klein was Anthony Shots, or potentially was. Yeah, he is. He may be back in Peru, actually. I got an email that TK might be back in Peru, but was Treasure Island, Florida. But I know they got hit with some hurricanes, so I don't know if that chased him out of his little rat nest or not. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like Abby and Libby were the target. I just feel like there's a piece that we don't know. We had Libby resetting her phone 10 days prior to the murders. That's the same time that Kagan Klein deleted all of his information. So the point that the day that they reset their phone, right around that same time, is when Keegan Klein deleted everything from his phone all the way to the 15th and refused to turn it over to law enforcement when they conducted a search warrant. He hid it in the microwave. That's kind of a good place to hide it. Nobody's going to think there's anything in the microwave. You got it, Mark. Charles says he is back in Peru. Yeah, I think he might be. I did find some documents online that might indicate that. So he may have been struggling. I don't know. Maybe he's living with one of those YouTube content creators out there near Peru. But I suggest it's probably his mom living with his mother. Seems like a mutually beneficial arrangement. Yeah, that was one of his confessions, right? Hey, thanks, Mark, for the super sticker. Give a shout out to Riot, Miss Dog Lover, and Mark for sponsoring today's live stream. Thanks, guys. Yeah, he mentioned that right during the confession. I didn't mean to kill Abby, he said. So does that mean that he did mean to kill Libby? Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, Charles. You know, we don't I think there could have been some kind of inappropriate relationship, a very short one. Right? They could have been using the Anthony Shots account or some kind of a catfish account very similar. I think it was that one specifically. To use one of the techniques that we've kind of seen Kagan do. Like he catfishes these girls, gains their trust, and then kind of sends them off to somewhere else, like to his dad or to another person. So I'm wondering if you have Anthony Shots who's interested in Libby, and then you have them saying, well, hey, do you have anybody for my friend? Well, who's your friend? Oh, well, he's 19 also. Good looking guy. But really, it's Richard Allen, right? Something like that. Because if we don't know which phone Richard Allen was on, and we don't know if Abby had some kind of a burner phone or a phone that was provided to her, I mean, we just don't know. Right now, I don't think anybody's interested in finding this out. You know, there's a lot that I feel like we don't know. That I don't know. Sensei, do you think the fake nudes pushed his buttons of frustration, not getting the pervy pics he wanted, and he held it against Abby personally? I think so. I think that might be a good explanation why the girls were completely disrobed at one point, or he attempted to, and why they weren't physically assaulted, sexually, you know what I mean? Like penetration and those types of things. It wasn't reported. And we know he was with them for at least 7 minutes. So after they disrobed, he was with them for 7 minutes and didn't try to physically assault them. So what is he doing with two naked girls? To me, he's photographing them. During an interview with Kagan Klein, law enforcement quotes, they go through some of the digital forensics and they read a conversation with Libby between Anthony Shots and Libby. And it says, what are you even good for? These are not nudes. So basically, you're worthless sending me these fake nudes. They even said something like, we have the money going to Libby. People say, oh, well, that's the photographs of the money. You wouldn't word it that way. You wouldn't say you have the money going to her. You would say we have the photos going to her. So I think there's a possibility that there was some money exchanged somehow. How? I don't know. And instead of providing real photographs, the girls duped them. They scammed them. Like, we know you guys aren't who you say you are. So we're gonna scam you. So yeah, I could have been very upset about that. We know that the girls were up late all the way up until the morning of the murders, and they were talking with Anthony Shots on Snapchat the day before and the morning of, all the way up until they were killed. They're communicating with Anthony Shots. Does law enforcement know what was said? Nope. They don't have the slightest clue. For all we know, it's, hey, I'm on the bridge. Okay, I'll be there in a second. We have no idea what they were talking about. For all we know, the girls were trying to set a trap for Kagan Klein. And here's Richard Allen. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, oh no. Or they already knew Richard Allen and he was there to kill them. He's like, I've been talking with these girls for 2 days now. He mentioned in one of his confessions he didn't want to, he was sorry for cheating on his wife. He's not going to cheat on his wife anymore. Like, how is he cheating? Like, how does that fit into all of this? Well, it could potentially be evidence of the inappropriate relationship that I've been sensing. So maybe they already knew Richard Allen and they were going there to meet him. I'm sure he was doing something like that. But I feel like he was attending to business. How did they know the pictures were fake? Well, you would have to see the photos. We would have to have the photos in front of us and be like, well, they're obviously fake, or maybe they sent them some photoshopped stuff or something else, Whatever it was, it could have pissed him off. Like, I'm going to get my photographs. And now that he had his photographs, he's like, oh shit, I can't just let you guys go. Like, I was so mad and deranged and high and drunk that all I can think about was getting my photographs. You pissed me off so bad. And I was so determined to get these photos, I didn't even think about what to do once I have them. But I don't know. The crime scene tells me that that there were two perpetrators. The evidence left at the crime scene tells me that there was one kidnapper and the girls crossed the creek. But the fact that the two victims are so, the wounds are so different and what was going on with them is so different. It tells me two different people were attending to each victim separately, maybe even separate locations. That's just what the evidence is pointing to me, especially with the redressing of Abby and things like that. I feel like at one point they were separated. Like everything seems extremely chaotic until they cross the creek, is what I'm trying to say. You have clothing all over the creek. You have all of this. It seems like chaos. And then once you get on the other side of the north side of the creek, everything is just consolidated in this one area. All right, let's move on before we get out of here. I don't know how many of you saw this. I thought it was interesting. Gilgo Beach prosecutors play Jurassic Park clip in surprise move to boost the case for DNA evidence. I think I have something here for that.
The building blocks of life. A DNA strand like me.
You guys remember that? Yeah, they did, right? So this is by Brandon Cruz and Priscilla DeGregory. Prosecutors played a clip from Jurassic Park at the hearing in the case of the alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer Wednesday in an unusual move to defend their DNA evidence. The scene from the sci-fi flick was used to bolster the argument that the nuclear DNA testing that linked alleged killer Rex Heuermann to 6 of 7 slain sex workers was legitimate, as his attorneys pushed to have the evidence tossed out as junk science. Prosecution expert witness Nicole Navrosky, the associate director at the Center of Human Identification for the University of North Texas, said Wednesday the type of science used for DNA analysis by investigators of the Gilgo Beach killings is not new and has actually been trusted for decades. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that. There. Thought I had a photo of her. Nicole Navrosky. She must be a Jurassic Park fan. I love Jurassic Park. Maybe. Well, when it comes to Abby and Libby's injuries, Abby had like one slice. It was like a very, it was one deadly wound and some superficial wounds. When it comes to Libby, it was very brutal. The killer was crisscrossing the blade. He was ripping it up underneath the chin. Like there was definitely a difference between the two. During Navrosky's testimony, prosecutors played a clip for the judge from the popular film franchise showing how scientists extracted dinosaur DNA from a mosquito preserved inside amber and then used it to clone the animals that have been extinct for some 66 million years. So I guess the point she's trying to make is like, look, man, DNA, you can't escape DNA, even after 66 million years, you're stuck with it. It's still the same. It didn't change over time. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it. Unless there's anything you want to add before we get out of here. I love Jurassic Park. It's one of those movies I can watch over and over and over and over and over again. Also explains the no defense wounds. Yeah. Did she know her killer? Maybe she was killed first. Like, hey, we're going to come out here and you're going to meet, this guy. And then they get out there and it's like, hey, I'm the guy. Richard Allen's like, I'm him. And Abby's like, you're Anthony Schatz' friend? Like, you're an old man. Like, you lied to me. And then maybe took her like a little bit away from Libby to have some privacy. I'm just trying to explain how there's no defensive wounds. There was only really one gash with Abby. It was, very quick and not a whole lot of blood around. Like, it could have maybe there's another crime scene somewhere nearby there. And a secondary killer just brought them back. Like, you have a killer with Abby and then you have Richard Allen with Libby or vice versa. Yeah, it would be very quick and violent. Wouldn't take much. Box cutter could have definitely have done that. Hey, brown-eyed girl, take care. Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys should strive to be like brown-eyed girl. Be more like her. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it. If you need to reach me for whatever reason, you can shoot me an email, sleuthintuition@gmail.com. We will try to get a members live in today at some point. But a special thank you to Riot, Miss Dog Lover, and Mark, and everybody else who's been supporting the channel. We are 100% crowd-funded, so anything and everything helps. We have Cash App. We even have Zelle and Venmo. So if you guys are wanting to support the channel, you can do that. Or you could go to sleuthintuition.com. We have merch. Everything is free shipping. A lot of T-shirts, couple hats. Still a lot of hoodies in there just because of the season change. But if you guys have any recommendations, shoot me an email and we'll see what we can do. Either way, catch you on the flip side. Peace.